Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar called Connecting with Catlin Gable. I'm Mary Braun. I am the Director of Enrollment for Middle and Upper School. So my job is to help families like yours work through the admission process, including learning about Catlin Gable. I'm hoping that today's webinar will be helpful in giving you kind of a big picture of the application process and the timing and so forth. I'm gonna switch the screen here. Oops, but it's not allowing me to do that. Oh, there we go. Before we continue on with that, I just also want to kind of highlight a couple of my colleagues. So again, I'm Mary Braun. I'm the Director of Middle and Upper School Enrollment. This is my 13th year at Catlin Gable. I actually tomorrow is my 13th anniversary of being at Catlin Gable. And then my assistant, Ellen Stott, supports all the work that we do in middle and upper school enrollment. My colleague, Mary Jacob, is the Director of Financial Assistance, and my colleague, Maribeth Pessanante, helps families with the online application process, among many other things. So before we get started on talking about the specifics of the application process, I wanted to just sort of put out there different ways that families learn about Catlin Gable, and families really come at it with a wide variety of previous knowledge about the school. Some people have known about it forever, and some people are just learning about it. So there are optional admission events that families can attend that like today, but also this Sunday, we're having an open house. That is Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m. And that's a really nice opportunity for families who are interested in applying to Catlin Gable to come to campus and see the campus, hopefully engage with some of our Catlin Gable middle and upper school, or upper school students and middle school, I guess, and parents, and also go to some sessions where you'll hear directly from middle and upper school teachers about their subject area. So they'll give you kind of an overview of their goals and examples of assignments. And then also there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. So that's kind of the spirit of the open house. And then we also have some events that are more specific to our PALMA Scholars Program. And I won't get into the detail of that program. We have a ton of information on our website. And then these particular events also will provide a lot of information about the program. But I wanted to include them on the list because they can be just really informational and helpful to learn about Catlin Gable, even if you're looking at middle school. If you want a lovely sample of some of our upper school students who happen to also be in the PALMA Scholars Program, these could be great events to attend. So we have over Zoom, so it's a virtual alumni panel. So students who are alums of Catlin Gable and of the PALMA Scholars Program. So that's coming up in November. And then we have a breakfast for that is part of a PALMA Scholars sort of information session that's on December 6th. And then in January, we have a middle school information session for anybody interested in learning about our middle school, and that's from 6 to 7 p.m. And then right after that, in the same location, we have an upper school information session. So again, if you're looking at applying or considering applying to middle school and you want to also get a sense of what our upper school is like, then you can stay on January 9th, or leave when you get the information that you're looking for. You can also schedule an individual or a private tour and a meeting. Those happen during the school day because we walk around campus and we pop in and out of classes that are in session. So that's different than the open house, which is a Sunday afternoon, right? There isn't regular school in session and teachers are busy teaching, right? So, teachers aren't teaching on Sunday afternoon, so they could talk directly with you versus a tour during a regular school day. You get to observe teachers teaching. So I think both are beneficial in different ways. And then a shadow day is something that is required for anybody who's local, but you can do it at any point in the application process. And I will talk a little bit more about that when I go through the different components of the application. And then two other things, you absolutely can reach out to the enrollment office and ask to connect with a Catlin Gable coach or a current parent of, or a parent of a current Catlin Gable student or a Catlin Gable alum. If you just want to get sort of their perspective, we're always happy to make those connections whenever. And then another way I think is a great way to learn about a school is to attend an event at the school, whether it's a speaker, an athletic event, maybe an arts performance. So if that's something that you're interested in and you want to learn more information about the schedule of those types of events, please reach out. Again, all of those things are optional with the exception of a shadow day. If you do complete the application process, and you live locally, we require students to come and spend a good portion of a day shadowing. To give you a little bit of a sense of the admission sort of pool, I'm providing this little chart here. So the grade is, if you're applying, so for example, if you're applying to sixth grade, these are 5-year averages. We get around a little under 70 applications for sixth grade. On average, we enroll about 19 new sixth graders, like new to Catlin Gable, for a total of 60 students in the sixth grade. So hopefully that makes sense. And you can take a look at whatever grade you're sort of interested in applying to. So while we consider sixth grade and ninth grade kind of main entry points, because if you see there are larger numbers of new students who go into those grade levels, you can also see that we do bring in new students at every grade level in the middle and the upper school. And the applicant pools tend to be smaller in those non-main entry points. This is a visual of the application timeline. So now is the time that families are learning about Catlin Gable and probably some other school options. They're attending open houses. This is the time of year that you can schedule a tour that I talked about. And then, as I mentioned, we'll start to be having some other events where you can learn about Catlin Gable. You also now can schedule a shadow day for your child. So anyway, you can see the little visual here. Maybe the way to think about it is work backwards from February 6th, because that's the application deadline. So by February 6th, you'll need to have all the application components not only sort of submitted, but received by us. And where that comes into play is really the teacher recs. It's not just enough to submit the teacher rec to your child's current English teacher, but you have to build in time to make sure that the English teacher has actually completed it and submitted it to Catlin Gable by the February 6th deadline. So it's helpful to work sort of backwards from that deadline. And then as you can see from the chart here, we will make our admission decisions known on March 8th, and we do that via email to everybody who's completed the application process. And then families get about a week and a half to, if they've been offered admission, they get about a week and a half to make a decision about whether or not they want to enroll. So I'm going to focus a little for just a couple minutes on the middle school application process, and then I'll follow that with the upper school application process. And some of these things are similar for both divisions. So these, and all of this is on our website, as well as after you've created an admission account for your child in our admission portal, it will be hopefully abundantly clear sort of what the steps are that are required and when you've completed them. And always you can reach out to me or anyone on our team if you have questions about anything. We are absolutely here to help you through this process. So for if you're applying to middle school, and our middle school is 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, There's a series of, I think there are 10 sort of short answer questions. There are 150 word limit to the responses for the student or for the applicant to complete. And then there's a separate set of questions for the parent or guardians to complete. And those have a 250 word limit. And then I mentioned the shadow day. So again, if you're local, that's required. If you're not, then we won't require it. And in lieu of a shadow day, we'll set up a virtual sort of casual interview with your child. There isn't a parent interview, whether you're local or not. That's not part of our process. And the shadow day is a time where your child will spend a good portion of the school day at Catlin. And prior to that shadow day, we ask that you complete it's called a pre-shadow day and interest form. And that helps us learn a little bit about your child's interests, both in school and maybe outside of school. And that helps us find a good student to host your child during their shadow day. Your host in general will be a grade higher than your child. So if you're applying to 6th grade, typically your child is in the 5th grade currently, but your child will be shadowing with a 6th grader, because we want your child to see what middle school is like and what 6th grade classes are like. Same goes for any of the grades. So if you're applying to 9th grade and your child's currently in 8th grade, they will be shadowing a 9th grader. And during that shadow day, we'll of course introduce your child to their host, and then your child will go with that host to a number of classes, as well as breaks and lunch. And the host will of course show their visitor, how the lunch line works. They can be our guest for lunch. If they're more comfortable bringing their own lunch, that's fine too. It's an opportunity for your child to just get introduced to some of the teachers and other students at Catlin Gable in the middle school. And then at some point after lunch, we gather up just the kids who are visiting, or who are shadowing. And typically that tends to be between 6 and 10 students in the middle school. And so we gather them after lunch and we do what we call a team challenge activity. So we think it's fun, and you don't have to have any prior sort of knowledge, and it'll be sort of an active way that the visitors can engage in an activity with each other. So they'll do that for about 45 minutes, and then we'll end the day asking them to do a little bit of on-site writing. So we have some prompts for them. Again, it's nothing to get nervous about. The questions tend to be, sort of like, if you could do anything you wanted next summer, what would you do? So there's no right or wrong answers to them. It's just a way for us to get to know students through their writing. And then there are teacher evaluations. So this is your child's current English teacher, current math teacher, and if you're applying to 7th and 8th grade, also the current science teacher. So you'll want to, ask that teacher ahead of time if they would be willing to complete a recommendation form that we have. You can feel free to pass along when you're asking the teacher if they would be willing to fill out the form that uninterrupted. That form will probably take about 10 minutes to complete. So it's not a super laborious or lengthy process to complete the form. And then you'll also want to confirm their email address, because as part of the application, you will be entering the English teacher's name and email address and submitting that form to that teacher electronically. The teacher will then receive the link through email, click on it, fill it out online, and then hit submit, and then it comes directly to us. But you as a family are in charge of sort of shepherding through that process. And then we also want to see school records from the last 2 years, so 22-23 school year and 21-22 school year, and then whatever is available for the current school year. So what I would recommend is going to your school's office and just saying, oh, when will there be some some student grades or record, information on the grade report or the school record for this year. And it'll most likely be, late January or February. And so whenever, the soonest that is available, we ask that you send it along to us. So for upper school, many of the same things. So I won't go through all those because they will be the same. Is in terms of questions for students, but in addition to the questions for students, at the end of that is some instruction on a video that we also require if you're applying to upper school. It's a 3.5-minute limit on the video, and it's just an opportunity for the applicant to just tell us a little bit more about them. So maybe something that won't be addressed or covered in the rest of the application. It could be just an interesting hobby. It could be some experience that they've had. I want to emphasize that this is really just to help the admission committee get to know your child. We're not going to sort of judge the quality of the video or really of the content, right? So please, don't think that this has to be sort of a, Hollywood produced kind of video. We really want it to be from the student, and we don't want the student to spend enormous amounts of time on it. It's just to help us get to know the applicant a bit. We also, in addition to all the middle school components, we ask upper school applicants to submit an example of a paper or some piece of writing that they've had to do for school. So ideally it is graded, and it's something that's already been produced, and there's instructions on how to upload that. And I know more and more kids are receiving sort of comments on their work and maybe even a grade on their work separately. And so we can, work through how you'd submit that information as well. The shadow day is similar to the middle school, except there's 2 different times that we gather the visitors. One time for a team challenge activity, as I described a moment ago, for middle school. And then we also gather them for what we call a demo class. So that is taught by Dave Whitson, who's an upper school teacher and the director of the Palma Scholars Program. And he teaches a class on a topic that any visitor can kind of relate to. And it basically is how it is titled. It's a demo class. So it's a way to help students kind of experience what it would be like to be a student in an upper school classroom. So there's there's a lot of engagement. There might be some movement around the room. There's full classroom discussion, there's small group discussion, there's a little bit of written reflection and so forth. So it's just to give kids a little sample of that. And then teacher evaluation form, same process as middle school. We require an English, math, and science teacher evaluation from the current year's teachers. Since they are not due until the application deadline of February 8th or February 6th, we recommend that you wait, and even till, if it's, work it out with the teacher, but even until after the new year, to give the teacher some time to get to know your child before they complete the form. And then the same sort of bits of information about the school records, when this year's school records are available, and then the previous 2 years. And then the Palma Scholars Program, and that is just only for applicants to 9th grade who are interested and who believe they qualify for the program. And it is the same application as the upper school application, with 2 additional required pieces. There's what we call the Palma Addendum, and I've highlighted them in bold here. And that's just some additional questions for the student to complete. And then we also require, since we require a student who in the Palma program to be a competitive athlete, that one of the pieces that we also require to apply for the program is like a rec form from at least one of the coaches that the student interacts with. So those 2 are additional. And then I just wanted to show you, you don't need to see the details of this, but I just wanted to give you an example of what you'll see when you create an account for your child and you go into the admission portal. When you complete the required steps of the application, you'll see a green check mark. So it should be a really helpful visual reminder of the things that you have left to complete and the things that you've already completed. And then really quickly, because I definitely want to allow some time for questions, so I'm going to blow through this stuff pretty quickly, but just, In terms of how decisions are made, it is made by they are made by a committee. So, and the committees are made up of faculty and staff. There's a middle school admission committee, there's a upper school admission committee, and there's a Palma Scholars admission committee. Those committee members observe and engage the applicants on their shadow days. And then they also read the files and we come together to discuss them. And we look for potential for student success, both academically and socially, emotionally. We look to see if there's potential to sort of contribute or enrich the student body or the learning community. And we look to make sure that there's indications that both the applicant and the family are in alignment with Cal and Gable's values. And then we have some additional sort of considerations. We do have a limited financial aid budget, so sometimes that can certainly influence our decisions in that we don't have, sometimes we don't have as much money as we want to give out for those who qualify for financial aid. I'm going to keep moving here. So on decision day, which is March 8th, you will get an email with one of 3 decisions. It might be an offer of admission. And in that case, the ball's sort of in your court, right? You get to then think about it and decide if you want to accept that offer of admission. And we will provide a number of different opportunities to return to campus, to ask questions, to connect with a teacher or a coach, and all those kinds of things, so that as the offer is sort of on the table, you can make sure that you get all your questions answered. Or you may get an invitation to the wait pool. And we specifically call it a pool versus a wait list because it's not a ranked list. It is offered to families where the student or the applicant has met the standards for admission, but we don't have enough space. And you can, again, decide if you want to be in that wait pool. And then if if a space opens up anytime between March 8th and when school starts, we will look to the wait pool and make an offer. And then the third decision, which is always the hardest decision, and we really do believe it's for this year only, that we're not able to offer the student and family a spot either in the wait pool or in the class. And we encourage you to consider applying in the future, because kids grow and change a ton. All right, so we are ready for some questions. That was a really quick overview. And so if you do have questions, please type them in the chat, and my colleague Ellen will read them out, and I will hopefully answer them well.
Okay, first question, Mary. Is it a good idea to bring students or children to open house on Sunday?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. So what we ask is that if you have a student or a child who is looking to apply to our middle school or upper school, please bring them along. But that the event is not really geared toward kids younger than that. And I recognize that can be challenging for families. But yes, for sure, if your child's looking at middle school or upper school and they're available, for sure, bring them along. All right.
Question, specifically for the upper school application, is there a minimum amount of time for the video?
So the limit is 3.5 minutes. But maybe you're asking, does it have to be 3.5 minutes? It doesn't have to be 3.5 minutes. So you could just, use your best judgment on that. But we ask that it not be longer than 3.5 minutes. All right.
For the middle school shadow day, when the students do a writing sample, is that on a keyboard or written by hand?
Oh, yes. And Ellen, do you want to answer that question since you oversee that?
It is a handwritten writing sample for students. There's 4 prompts, and the students can write as little or as much as they're comfortable with in about a 25-minute time slot. If your student does have an accommodation at their current school to use a keyboard, then we are also happy to provide that for you at Catlin Gable on your shadow day. So just let us know. Well, are students ever admitted from the wait pool in the middle of the school year?
Good question. And just so you know, Ellen, you're coming in and out just a teeny bit. So I might just sort of repeat the question. The question was, do students get admitted from the wait pool in the middle of the school year? Also a great question. And we don't admit students once the school year has begun. So at that point, anybody who is in the wait pool is welcome to reapply for the following year. We waive the application fee, but you do sort of start fresh again with the application, again, just because kids grow and change so much. But we don't offer admission to anyone after the first day of school.
Question is wondering if you could speak a little bit more to Catlin Gable's values. And this person is also wondering if those values are part of any sort of faith or kind of how they originated at Catlin.
Yeah, this is such a big question. It's hard to know how to be really brief about it. But so Catlin Gable is not based out of, or it is not a religious school, historically or currently, which shouldn't be confused with the idea that there aren't sort of values that we instill in students, right? So we really want, and they're sort of baked into the curriculum versus taught through sort of a religion, if that's a helpful way to think about it. And so just wanting kids to be filled with integrity, right? To be their real selves, to be kind to others, and kind plays out in a lot of different ways, I think, for kids and for adults. And that we are a place that we want everyone, both students and adults, to feel included, that they can bring their whole selves to Catlin and feel like they belong in every sort of way, shape, or form. I realize that probably is not a super satisfying answer, but for the sake of being able to answer a few more questions, I'm going to kind of leave it at that. I should sort of back up and say that if you do sign up to take a tour of Catlin's middle school or upper school on a regular school day, if you sign up for a middle school tour, first of all, just a reminder that those are individual tours, they're not group tours. And so, and I give them for middle school. And so you can ask me or tell me lots of different things about your family and your child. You can bring your child along to that tour. As we're walking around, we usually allow for about an hour to see some classes in action and to just have a good conversation. For upper school, they are also individual or private, and they are led by 2 upper school students, and hopefully what you get from them is not only you get to pop in and out of some upper school classrooms, but you also get to ask the upper school students about their experiences as a Catlin Gable upper school student. So that takes place for about 45 minutes. And then the last 15 or 20 minutes are with me if you just have questions about the admission process or just questions that are more appropriate for me. So I'm always happy, or of course, to just take phone calls or emails. So if you want a sort of longer response, or you have a really specific question for your family, there's a lot of different ways that I'm happy to kind of respond to those. We probably have time for 1 or 2 more questions.
A technical question and kind of combine a few questions into one. Where's the best place to find the checklists for application that were listed on the slideshow? And then along with that, how do we send the teacher recommendation forms?
Yeah, and my colleague Marybeth, I think, is in the background. So I'm hoping she's sort of, since she's the person who sort of manages the online application. Marybeth, do you want to respond to that?
Hello, everyone. Once you've created an admission portal account, and from the landing page, there's a link that says Manage My Applications, and you'll see your child or children listed there, and each one will have a link to view their checklist where you can see all of the required steps and more detailed information and the forms you need to fill out. For the teacher evaluations, they will be available to send on November 1st. So when you go into the checklist now, you'll see information about the teacher evaluations, but there's not a link that says send request to your teacher. That button will appear for you on November 1st for you to send it at that time or after then, as Mary Braun recommended. Perhaps you'd like to wait till the first of the year to give the teacher a little more time to know your child.
See a couple questions about this, so I also just want to confirm that we did record today's event and we will post it to our website within the next week or so. And then last question for you, Mary, to finish out our time. Even if we can only make it to an hour of open house, is it still worth attending?
Absolutely, it's worth attending. And it is an open house. So it is, the idea of it is that you go for whatever amount of time you either have, or you go for as long as you need to get the information that you're looking for. So, if you just have an hour, I would perhaps look at the schedule, which is posted on our website, and make a little bit of a game plan. If you don't have time to look at a schedule online, you'll have a program when you come to campus. And it'll, have a page for what's happening in the middle school, a page for what's happening in the upper school. So hopefully it'll be really easy for you to zero in on what you think will be most helpful. And we will have a bunch of sessions running concurrently. So in terms of the academic subject areas, you can pick and choose which of the academic subject areas you want to attend, which sessions you want to attend, because they will be running concurrently. So I absolutely think it is worth your while to come for an hour. And I should also say, before I forget, that I will also have a session at the open house that also talks with people and answers questions about the application process. So if your spouse wasn't able to watch the webinar and they have questions, or you have additional questions, that can be also a good place to connect with me. I think we have time for one more question. And Ellen.
Let me see here. Someone is wondering if there's ever an opportunity for campus tours outside of traditional school hours, especially because they want their child to come and see the school, but are a little bit concerned about missing school.
Yep, that's a fair question. So our tours are during the school day because we think it's just really informative to see, like, what does the school look like and feel like on a regular school day. And the tours include popping in and out of classes that are in session, and obviously that would be impossible after school. So my advice is, if you know ahead of time of when your child maybe doesn't have school because of parent-teacher conferences or professional development days or something like that, and then look to see if we're offering tours on those days. If we're not, you can absolutely reach out to me and say, hey, my child doesn't have school this day. Is there any way we could come in for a tour that day so that he or she doesn't miss school? There's of course a chance that we will also not have school that day, because it's a common day that that schools don't have classes. But if that's not the case, absolutely happy to accommodate that. So that would be my advice. Yeah. Well, I think on that note, I just want to thank all of you for attending, and thank my colleagues for helping, and thanks for your great questions as well. And please know this was not your only opportunity to ask questions. You can email the team or me. You can call. Lots of different ways to ask questions. So please don't hesitate to do so. Thank you so much.